In the ancient lands, where mountains touched the skies and rivers cut deep through the valleys, there was once a city full of wealth, laughter, and noise. Its streets were filled with people who lived as if they would never die, who indulged in every desire without fear of consequence. This was the city where Prophet Lut, a man chosen by Allah, walked among them, warning them day and night. He was not a stranger, not an outsider, but one of their own, a man they knew, trusted, and respected. Yet when he spoke of truth, of purity, of turning back from corruption, their hearts grew hard and their ears closed shut. The people of Lut were unlike any other nation of the time. They invented sins no one before them had dared to commit. They turned against the natural way, indulging in desires forbidden by the Creator, and they were proud of it. Men abandoned women, families broke apart, and shamelessness became their way of life. In the marketplaces, instead of honesty, there was cheating. In their gatherings, instead of kindness, there was mockery. And at night, instead of decency, there was open sin, celebrated as if it were an achievement. Prophet Lut looked upon his people with pain in his heart. He reminded them gently at first, speaking of the blessings of Allah, the beauty of purity, the mercy of turning back before it was too late. But their laughter was louder than his warnings. They jeered at him, called him narrow-minded, accused him of being against pleasure and joy. They were blinded by arrogance, and in their arrogance they felt untouchable. Every prophet comes with a mission, and Lut's mission was heavy. He was not simply facing disbelief, but rebellion against the very fabric of human nature. Still, he did not give up. Again and again, he pleaded with his people. "O my people," he said, "why do you commit this shameful act that no one in all the worlds has ever done before you?" But their response was only louder mockery. Some would cover their ears when he spoke. Others would laugh, clapping their hands as if his words were entertainment. And some would threaten him, warning him to stop or else be driven out of the city. Lut's heart was torn between his duty to guide and the reality he faced each day. He would return home at night exhausted, his eyes heavy with tears, praying to Allah for strength. There were only a handful who believed in him. Among them was his family, though not all remained faithful. His wife, the woman who shared his home, his food, and his life, was secretly with the disbelievers. She betrayed her husband not by words of love, but by loyalty to corruption. When Lut spoke of truth, she whispered to the enemies. When Lut prayed for mercy, she laughed with those who defied Allah. The pain of betrayal was deep, yet Lut remained steadfast, for his mission was greater than his sorrow. The city itself was a place of beauty, with gardens, water, and fertile land. Allah had blessed them with provision, yet instead of gratitude, they drowned in greed. Their blessings became their distraction, their wealth became their chain, and their desires became their god. At night, the city lit up with fires and gatherings, music and laughter echoing through the streets. But behind the laughter was emptiness, behind the pleasure was darkness, and behind their confidence was doom approaching fast. Prophet Lut walked through the city knowing that every step he took was a step deeper into their rebellion. He warned them of the punishments of Allah. He told them of the nations destroyed before them. He reminded them of the power of the one who created the heavens and the earth. But their hearts were sealed. The more he spoke, the more they resisted. The more he warned, the more they mocked. And so the test grew heavier. There came a time when angels were sent by Allah in the form of handsome young men. They came to Prophet Ibrahim first with glad tidings of a son and with news of a mission that would shake the earth. They told Ibrahim that they were on their way to destroy the people of Lut. Ibrahim trembled, for he was a man of mercy, a man who did not wish destruction even for sinners. He pleaded with the angels, asking if there was no way, no chance for them to be spared. But the angels replied with firmness that the decree of Allah had been set. The people of Lut had crossed every limit, and their time was over. When they arrived at the city of Lut, they came as strangers. They appeared as travelers seeking shelter, handsome and youthful. radiating light though the people could not see it. Prophet Lut saw them, and his heart trembled. He knew the evil of his people, their shameless lusts, their cruelty to strangers. Fear struck him, not for himself, but for his guests. He whispered to them, urging them to leave, but they told him they were on a mission from Allah. Still, his heart ached, for he knew his people would not hesitate to surround his house. And soon enough, the news spread like wildfire. The people rushed to his home, shouting, laughing, demanding that Lut hand over his guests. They gathered at his door, pounding it, their voices rising like a storm. Prophet Lut stood before them, trembling yet firm. He begged them to fear Allah. He pleaded with them to choose the path of purity. "O my people," he cried, "or are my daughters, if you must, marry them lawfully, but do not disgrace me before my guests." But their eyes were blinded, their hearts hardened, and their desires burned hotter than any flame. They shouted back at him with cruelty. "You know we have no interest in women. You know what we want." The night grew heavy, the air filled with corruption, and Lut's heart nearly broke. In despair, he raised his hands to the heavens and cried, "If only I had power against you, or could rely on a strong support." And in that moment, the angel spoke. "Lut, we are messengers from your Lord. They will never reach you. Leave with your family in the deep of the night. Do not look back, for by morning their fate will be sealed." The night was silent yet heavy with a weight unseen. Prophet Lut's heart beat fast as he prepared to leave, his hands trembling, his eyes glistening with sorrow. This was the city he had lived in, the people he had called his own, the streets where his voice had echoed with warnings for years. Now he was walking away, knowing that by dawn those streets would be wiped from the face of the earth. The angels urged him to move quickly, to take his family and flee under the cover of night. "Do not look back," they commanded, "for what is coming is not for your eyes to witness." Lot gathered his family, his daughters who believed in him, whose faith had kept them steadfast when others mocked. But his wife, the woman who had shared his home, was not truly with him. Her heart belonged to the people who defied Allah, and though she walked with them, her loyalty betrayed her steps. The night was still, but behind them the city was restless. The people who had gathered at Lut's door were blinded by the angels, struck with a punishment that left them stumbling, unable to find their way. They groaned and cursed, but still their hearts were hardened, and their voices carried sin even as their eyes were darkened. Lot walked swiftly, his daughters at his side, the angels guiding them through the darkness of night. Every step felt heavy. Every sound in the distance felt like thunder. Every breath carried both fear and hope. The city they left behind had been given every chance, every reminder, every warning, but they had chosen defiance. The mercy of Allah is vast, but when people persist in corruption with pride, the punishment is swift and final. As they walked, the angels spoke to Lut, calming his trembling heart. They told him that by morning, the land would be overturned. The sky would unleash what it had been ordered, and the people would taste the justice they had mocked. But Lut was human, a prophet with a tender heart, and though he knew they deserved it, he still felt sorrow. His eyes burned with tears as he remembered the laughter of children in the streets, the faces of neighbors he had once trusted, the city that could have been saved if only they had listened. The angels reminded him to keep moving, to not look back, for looking back was a sign of regret for what Allah had decreed. His daughters clung to him, silent but strong, their faith carrying them forward. But behind them, his wife's steps grew slower. Her heart was not fleeing with them. Her soul was tied to the people of corruption. She turned her face back, longing for what she should have left, yearning for the life of sin she secretly admired. And in that instant, the command of Allah struck her. She was seized by the punishment that was to fall upon the rest. She was left behind, swallowed in the torment, her fate sealed with the people she had chosen over her husband, the Prophet of Allah. Lut pressed forward, his heart shattering, yet he could not stop. The night carried him away until the darkness gave birth to the first light of dawn. And then it began. The sky above the city grew heavy, clouds swirling with a power no eye had ever seen. The earth trembled, the mountains echoed with thunder, and the angels prepared to unleash the decree. Stones of baked clay, each marked with the command of Allah, began to rain down from the heavens. The air roared as the punishment descended, crushing everything it touched. Homes shattered, walls crumbled, laughter turned into screams that tore through the night. But the punishment was not only from above. The very earth beneath them shifted, the ground groaning as if alive, until with a force beyond imagination, the city was lifted. The land itself was overturned, raised high into the sky by the will of Allah, so high that the cries of its people were heard by the angels above. And then, with a command, it was turned upside down, crashing back into the earth with a destruction so complete that nothing remained. The waters of the Dead Sea would later cover that land, a silent witness to the wrath that had fallen there. The screams ended, the fires burned out, and silence returned. But it was not the silence of peace, it was the silence of death, of finality, of a city erased forever. Prophet Lut, safe with his daughters, heard the echoes from afar. His heart ached with grief, but within that grief was the certainty that Allah's justice is never unjust. For years he had warned them. For years he had pleaded. For years he had offered them the path of salvation. But they had chosen their path, and every soul chooses where it stands. The morning sun rose, casting light over the land, but where once there had been a thriving city, there was nothing but ruin. Rocks, ashes, smoke, and silence. No laughter, no marketplaces, no gatherings of pride. Only the memory of what had been and the lesson for all who would come after. Lut turned away, his eyes heavy, his shoulders carrying the weight of loss. But he also carried hope, for he had fulfilled his duty. He had spoken the truth, he had stood firm when the world mocked him. The destruction was not his failure, but their choice. And so he walked forward, knowing that Allah's promise is true, that every nation given a warning will face the truth of it if they do not turn back. The angels departed, their mission complete, leaving Lut and his daughters to continue their lives in safety. But the story of the city that was turned upside down was not erased. It was written in stone, in earth, in memory, to be told for generations to come. The ruins lay beneath the waters, a reminder for travelers, a warning for the arrogant, a sign for the believers. And every time the story is told, hearts tremble, for it is not just a story of the past, but a lesson for the present and the future. Those who walk in arrogance, those who mock the truth, those who turn shamelessness into pride, their end will always be bitter. For Allah is merciful, but His justice is never blind. The sun rose higher, its light stretching across the valleys, but in the place where once a proud city had stood, there was nothing but silence. Prophet Lut walked with his daughters, their steps slow, their hearts heavy, their eyes still wide with the memory of what had happened. They did not look back, for Allah had forbidden it, yet the echoes of destruction seemed to follow them. The cries, the thunder, the trembling of the earth, all of it lingered in their minds like shadows that would never fade. They had survived, but survival did not erase the pain of loss. The land they had known, the people they had lived among, the familiar streets and homes, all were gone in a single night. Lut's heart was torn, for he was not a man of hatred. He had never wished destruction for his people, only their salvation. Yet they had chosen to close their hearts, to blind their eyes, to mock the very man who wanted nothing but their good. Now the ground where they had walked was overturned, buried under stone and fire, hidden beneath what would later become the lifeless waters of the Dead Sea. It was as if Allah had erased them from the face of the earth, leaving behind only a scar to remind the world of what arrogance brings. As they journeyed away, Lut spoke softly to his daughters, teaching them the lesson written in the ruins behind them. He told them that Allah's mercy is greater than the heavens and the earth, but His punishment is severe when people defy Him with pride. He told them that no nation, no matter how strong, can stand against the will of the Creator. And he reminded them that faith, even if held by a few, is more precious than the laughter of thousands who mock the truth. His daughters listened, their eyes wet with tears, their souls carrying both grief and strength. They knew their lives would never be the same, but they also knew they had been chosen to survive for a reason. The story of what they had witnessed would not end with them. It would be told, carried, remembered. For what happened to the people of Lut was not only history, but a warning for every generation to come. The ruins behind them were not just rocks and ashes. They were signs, lessons carved by the hand of Allah for the eyes of humanity. Generations would pass, nations would rise and fall, but the story of the city turned upside down would live on. Travelers would one day pass by the waters of the Dead Sea and wonder at the silence. They would feel the heaviness in the air, the lifelessness of the land, and they would remember the people who once defied the truth. And in that remembrance, hearts would tremble and faith would awaken. Prophet Lut, though burdened with sorrow, carried hope in his heart. He knew that Allah does not destroy except with justice. Every soul that had been taken had been given a chance, a warning, a voice of truth in the form of his message. None could say they had not known. None could claim they had not been told. The destruction was not sudden cruelty. It was the final chapter of arrogance written by their own hands. And for those who reflect, the story is clear. Sin may be sweet for a moment, but its end is bitter. Arrogance may make one feel powerful, but it crumbles in the face of divine justice. Shamelessness may be turned into pride by the corrupt, but it is nothing before the truth of Allah's command. Prophet Lut lived on, carrying the scars of his people's downfall. Yet never turning away from his mission, he continued to call to the truth, to teach his family to worship his Lord. His daughters, the survivors of a nation destroyed, held on to their faith and became part of the lineage that would carry forward the message of Tawheed, the oneness of Allah. And the story remained, passed down through prophets, written in scriptures, remembered in sermons, and carried in the Quran as a living warning. The Quran speaks of the people of Lut in powerful words, reminding every heart that hears it of the danger of arrogance and sin. And we turned the city upside down and rained upon them stones of baked clay, layer upon layer. These words echo through time, sharper than any sword, clearer than any warning, carrying the weight of history and the truth of Allah's justice. And so, the city that once mocked, that once laughed, that once felt invincible, became a story told with trembling voices. The people who once cheered in their corruption became a lesson for all who would dare follow their path. Their laughter is gone, their pride is gone, their homes are gone, but their story remains like a shadow cast across time, reminding every believer of the fine line between mercy and wrath. For every nation is given chances, every heart is given warnings, every soul is offered guidance. But when the warnings are mocked, when the truth is rejected, when sin is celebrated as if it were an achievement, then the end is near. The people of Lut are not just a story of the past, but a mirror for the present. In every age there are those who follow their path, who make pride of sin, who laugh at purity, who mock those who call to truth. And in every age, the story of Lut stands as a reminder that Allah is patient, but his patience is not weakness. He gives time, but time eventually runs out. He gives chances, but chances are not endless. And when the decree comes, no power on earth can stand against it. Prophet Lut's tears, his pain, his prayers, his patience, all are remembered. His courage to stand alone, his strength to keep warning, his endurance against mockery, all are honored. And his story is one of both tragedy and triumph. Tragedy, for his people were destroyed by their own rebellion. Triumph, for he fulfilled his mission, remained steadfast, and walked away with his faith unshaken. The ruins of his people lie beneath lifeless waters, a reminder written on the earth itself. A reminder that sin leads only to ruin. A reminder that arrogance brings destruction. A reminder that Allah's justice is real and his promise is true. And every time the story is told, hearts tremble, eyes moisten, and souls awaken to the reality of life and death. For the city that was turned upside down is not gone. It lives on as a lesson, a warning, and a truth that will never fade. And so the story ends not in silence, but in a voice that echoes through generations. Turn back before it is too late. Seek purity before shamelessness consumes. Choose faith before arrogance blinds. For the mercy of Allah is vast, but His justice is certain. And those who defy Him will always face the fate of those who once laughed in the city that was turned upside down.